these are 3 things you should add. Number 1, I care about you. Number 2, you have great potential at this company and you made a big mistake and you need to improve. But then instead of firing, what did you learn that we can do better?
Dave, it is a thrill for me to be here with you. Lynette Silva Heelan, Workhuman Consulting in EMEA, where I have the best job in the world. I get to work with customers, companies, people, to make sure people feel noticed, valued, seen, respected for what they do and for who they are. And every employee and every job and every organization deserves that. And I think that kind of ethos aligns really well with what you were sharing with us at this conference earlier this morning on our people are not our greatest asset. Our people are our customers' greatest asset. So could you go a little bit deeper on that for us on how do we help our people understand that value they bring?
Let me go back a bit.
Sure.
When I was in college decades ago, I was on my way to law school. And I took a course in organizational behavior. And I didn't know what it was. And I got captivated because the professor said, look at every organization where you live, where you work, where you worship, where you play. How does it change your life? And his line was, organizations don't think, people do. People think. And so he said, write a paper to show me what you're learning about the organizations where you live and work. I wrote a 10-page paper every week. At the end of the semester, he called me and he said, who are you? Nobody writes 10-page papers. I said, this fascinates me about how do you manage people and organizations. He got me into organizational behavior. I called my mom and dad and I said, I'm not going to go to law school, I'm going to study OB.
And they're like, what?
No, they thought, you're going to be a doctor. And I said, no, I'm not going to be a doctor. And they don't know what it is. I didn't know what it was. I have been fascinated for decades since. Organizations shape how people think, how they act, how they feel, and our lives are shaped by organizations. People are the key ingredient. Now, I've added to my professor, organizations don't think, people do, but organizations shape how people think, act, and feel. And so, for an organization to succeed, it has to succeed in the marketplace. I've been in a lot of companies that have great mission, purpose, values, but they're not meeting the needs of their customers. If you can meet the needs of your customers by meeting the needs of your workforce, you're going to be successful. And so the headline, people are our customers' most important asset. Imagine if a customer could hire somebody, pay somebody, train somebody. Are we doing things inside our company so that a customer gets the benefit?
Oh, I love that. I love that. At Workhuman, we think in terms of what's good for the human is good for the business. But I like this even more. What's good for the human is good for the customer is good for the business.
And I don't know where the business and customer fit in, but it's not just business. Business succeeds when customers buy our product. And so the fun question is, for example, performance management. We get a set of criteria. Go to your customers and say, are these the things you want our employees to be better at? Generally, they'll say yes, but they'll go, no, that's not it. Or a value statement. Every company has a great value statement. We value openness and integrity and innovation and service. Go to your customers. Are these the values you want to see in our company? They'll often say yes. One time, the number one value, the company said, our number one value is to be the most profitable firm in our industry. And the customer went, no, I'm not that excited.
Not okay with that one.
I'm not okay with that one. So are these the values you want us to be known for? Number two, customer. What do we have to do to show you that we live those values? So if you're my customer, what do we have to do to show you that we have innovation, quality, service? You define the behavior. Number three, when we do what you just said, will you buy more from us? Now, when I work with business leaders, they say, wow, that's not how we lock values. We just have this great statement. Well, our values should create value for the customer. That's what I know you're doing in your work.
It is, because, I mean, why does a business exist? It exists to provide a service product into the market, but it's done through the people in the organization. So core values is a terrific example. Every company has their core values, the codified behaviors that they say they need every employee to demonstrate in order to achieve success. I love this bringing the customer lens to that. One way that Workhuman encourages bringing those core values to life is by empowering every employee to notice and recognize meaningfully, specifically detailed how someone else is demonstrating one of those. Like one of my favorite is integrity.
I love
Very good value to have. What does that mean in what I do every day?
Yeah.
So how can we educate each other when we recognize that? Does that resonate?
Absolutely. And you know what's fun is to get the customer to recognize it.
Yes.
I fly a
Yes.
lot. One of the airlines I fly on, because I fly a lot, they've sent me every year 10 coupons, each worth $100.
Right.
And they've said the most frequent travelers now control 3% of our bonus. So I'm a traveler. I know what I value is service and relationships. So when somebody does that service, I say, here you go. I just gave you $100 of the company money.
Right.
What a wonderful way to make the customer a participant in the human work process. And when you can do that, the work that you do with the employees and recognition and compensation creates value for the customer, because the customer sees what you're doing that's good.
Absolutely. And I think as you know, climate change, everything else we're facing in this polycrisis, I think is the word of the conference.
That was the word I heard. I've not heard that word before.
We talk in terms of permacrisis, polycrisis, what's going to happen, what's the latest term du jour, helping people feel connected to others, to their colleagues at work, to the customer, to send it out to their communities. I think we lost something during COVID of that connection.
Here's
we
an
almost
insight.
forgot.
People that worked at home all the time felt lonely. Duh. I mean, and how do you get that? We love to look at what do humans need at work. We have boiled it down to 4 things. Be safe,
Right.
physically and psychologically. I think COVID got both of those. Believe, find work that has meaning and purpose for me. Become better, and belong. And the connectedness is part of that belonging. It's interesting, my wife is a very good psychologist. She said, psychology looks back at why people are depressed and discouraged and unravels history. It looks forward to why you're anxious, because you don't know the future. But today the big issue is present, and it's loneliness, it's isolation. And the research is very scary. Social isolation is one of the leading causes of death, more than smoking, more than hypertension, because social isolation leads to many dysfunctions. And so if work is a setting where connection or belonging, whatever you want to call that, exists, it brings us together as people in great relationships.
It does. And how do you see the role of intentional, specific, meaningful recognition of our colleagues, our peers around us, feeding belonging, feeding that sense of I belong here?
You tell me. This is your expertise. What have you learned?
Well, we see very much that when people are very deliberate and intentional in noticing those around them and telling someone, thank you, I appreciate that you made the time to do this with us today. But that's not even enough. I appreciate it. What does that mean to me? It means I have the opportunity to learn directly from you. The people who may be watching this video get the opportunity to learn directly from us.
Yeah.
And that is a rare opportunity. Thank you for that. And when we make that connection for people, then people understand the difference they make, the impact they make.
And it's a community that we build. Gallup talks about a best friend at work. I think we need to have a best friend who doesn't care about work. I had an experience. I happened to be active in a church community, and we hadn't been there a long time. And somebody walked by me and said, "You got a haircut this week. It looks good." And I thought, he noticed. He recognized me. That little moment of connection. And I thought, that's one of the coolest things ever. I mean, it wasn't a big aha. It was just, you look good today. You have really nice glasses. You have, and just simply for people to feel like they're social animals. Again, my wife says loneliness today is the disease du jour. It's where burnout occurs. And so leaders, sometimes we are going to work at home. We're going to work remotely. Tom Peters used to talk about managing by wandering around.
Yes. Yes.
I think when you're working at home, I don't want my boss to show up. Neither do you.
They might see the dust bunnies under the couch. No, thank you.
They may see more than that. But I think we can manage by checking in.
Yes.
And so I talk about, if you're a leader, check in. Call your employees. One leader told me that she said, I call those who report to me once a week for 10 minutes, and we can't talk about work.
I love it.
We just, how are you doing? What's working for you? And I know that's the work that you've done in your company, is get people to feel that connection.
It is.
At a personal level.
It is, and the check-in is important to us at Workhuman as well. My colleague, Dr. Michan Martin, is very good about this. So I'm stealing this example from her, where when she checks in, whether they're people who report to her, friends at work, checking in with anyone, she asks, give me the song lyric, the movie scene, the meme that's your mental state right now.
No, that's great.
And it's an easy way for people to just be like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. When you start a discussion, how are you doing? What's going on with family? What's going on with life? One of the things I've started doing, because we do a lot of Zoom, we do a lot of Teams, I love to say to people, tell me something behind you that tells me a story.
Yes.
I've had so many cool stories. That's a picture of my father and I fishing.
Right.
That's a picture of my trip to India. And I think those sometimes being remote, working at home, obviously distances us because we're not wandering around. But sometimes we get a glimpse into people's lives. So if I were seeing a picture of you at your home office, what would be behind you that would tell me a story about you?
Most likely the cat's napping on the bed behind me. I'm allergic to cats. I love cats. I got them during COVID. They kept us sane. I will take a daily antihistamine pill and keep those cats close.
I've just learned Lynette is a cat person.
Absolutely.
But by the way, that's cool. And if I were seeing you on video, I'd get to see that. I'd begin to feel some of that. I love some of the day-to-day stuff. I love to ask people, what are you having for dinner? And well, I don't know. I'm thinking about this. Who are you going to have dinner with? Just let us connect with people at a personal level.
What would be behind you if we were in a Zoom meeting right now?
Oh, I have an office that has, it's interesting, I have heroes. So behind me is a picture of Martin Luther King, an American political activist who brought diversity to the world. Next to him is a picture of Sheikh Zayed, who I think is a hero in a different culture, in a different place. I've never met either one, obviously. A picture of my father delivering food to the homeless. And about 6 months ago, it showed up behind me, a picture of my wife. She put it on there.
Wise to leave it in place.
No, I goofed. I didn't get it myself. But she added, and my family. And I think that's good, because those pictures give a communication of who I am. I love the ideas that you just shared. Where's your mental state? What's going on? One of the things that becomes so critical, and it's an example of the importance of this, a number of months ago, I was on a plant tour. And you've done tours of plants, and it's amazing. Everybody has a collared shirt, and they have their Six Sigma flip chart, and everything was clean. And at the end of the tour, the person I was touring with looked at the plant manager and the president of the company, and he said, there's a problem here that's pretty serious. And I was going, oh my gosh, where was I?
It looked good to me.
And he said, in the last hour, not once did a member of the management team go offline and talk to an employee.
Oh, very good.
How's your son's soccer team? How's your daughter's play? How's your mom feeling? Not once did an employee come up and talk to a member of your team. I think in this plant, if you're not getting those kind of informal, casual discussions, we've got a problem. As soon as he said it, I thought, I missed it. I just missed it.
It's absolutely true. Even in our research with our customers that have high safety requirements in their organizations, safety is often a core value. It is something we encourage be recognized. And we see across customers where this is true, plants, sites, locations, where there's more recognition activity between and among all employees, far fewer safety incidents, far fewer trips and tears than sites where there's less recognition activity. Now, is it correlative? Is it causative? We'll set that aside. I believe it's because people are paying attention. They're paying attention to the people around them.
I mean, your glasses, you got new glasses today. You got a beautiful necklace. They're just simply, you're there. You're present.
Yes.
You're not working in isolation. So I'm curious, you've done a lot of recognition. What kinds of recognitions matter most? And there's not one size fits all.
No, no, there's not one size fits all. And it always brings in a question of, well, this country's culture is very different. That sounds very American, what you're talking about. And what it comes down to, the need for recognition, what's the one requirement is, are you breathing? This is a human need to know that I am bringing value to another person.
Nice.
I am being helpful. But what we see across the board is, it's not how public it is or bring somebody up on stage. It's, what does that message tell me about the value I brought to you, about how I helped, about the difference I made? Across cultures, across industries, we often get asked, oh, well, if you're giving recognition all the time, can you ever have too much? And the answer is yes, if the recognition is thanks, bro, love ya, and that's it. But if it's specific, value, delivery focused, never be too much.
And it's so nice to be acknowledged.
Yes.
And again, you've got economic, which is fine, but it's the relationship, it's the work itself. The research out of Harvard over decades, what gives you meaning in life? It's the relationships you have with others.
Exactly.
And work is not the only, but it's one of the settings where that can occur.
Absolutely.
And if you manage that relationship and you help leaders recognize your job as a leader. In fact, we've done a lot of research on leadership. You have data, you have statistics.
Yep.
I love to boil it down. When somebody leaves an interaction with you, do they leave feeling better or worse about themselves? That's it.
That's it.
And if I leave an interaction with Lynette, which I'm feeling, I'll feel better about myself. That's leadership.
As well.
That's leadership. Now, how do you do it? I don't know, because people are different, but that's the mindset. How do I make sure? And so I'll anchor that specifically. I'm in a big company working with a very senior executive, and an employee made a huge mistake. This company, sadly enough, did email, they're global, and he drafted an email. You made a huge mistake. It's going to cost us millions. If you don't fix it, you're fired. Woo! And he said, you're coaching me. What should I do? And I said, stop.
Don't do
Number
that.
one, you should do it in personal, but these are three things you should add. Number one, I care about you. Number two, you have great potential at this company, and you made a big mistake, and you need to improve. But then instead of firing, what did you learn that we can do better? So I care about you. Very simple. You have great potential. Don't walk away from the mistake.
Right.
And I see some leaders not being able to do that. You did make a mistake. Let's talk about it. And then what do you learn? How are you going to improve? And he said, he sent that out, called me the next day, and he said, this employee responded different. He said, I didn't know you cared. I didn't know you thought I had potential. I know I made a mistake. Frankly, if the employee didn't know they made a mistake, you got a bigger problem.
Right.
And I want to learn. Let's go forward.
And now you've got an
stuff.
employee who's going to chase all the way.
Well, and he was recognized, your work that is so brilliant as a human being who has potential, and then you made a mistake.
Exactly.
That's okay.
Exactly. We talked about stats. There's so much stats. There's so much research out there. I'm a research junkie, not to bore someone who knows this as much as I do, but for those who might be watching, research we do with Gallup, we found the impact on us as people, as embodied human beings, of knowing that someone sees me, values me. And this applies at work, at home, in all aspects of our lives, of course. But when people agree the recognition they receive at work is meaningful and aligned to the work they do,
That's interesting.
44% more likely to say they are thriving in their lives overall. Overall, because we bring work home with us every day.
So what I did with this executive, I've done it with others. We live in a technology world. You can send an Instagram, you can send a tweet or an X or whatever it's called today. I bought him some really nice note cards with his name on it. I said, I'm going to encourage you once a week to write a personal note to an employee. Lynette, why do I do this? I was doing work a number of years ago with an executive everybody's heard of named Jack Welch. Tough executive. He had a program, he sent it to me. I sent him a note back that I thought he should change the program. He immediately sent me a note back in his penmanship. Dave, I read your ideas. I appreciate them. We're going to go ahead with what I said, Jack. And I thought, I've been heard. So one of the coaching things, I do two coaching things that people can pick up on around recognition. Just send people a note. Just send people a note. It's such a nice, simple thing. And if you do that on a nice card, go buy a nice card. won't promote a company, put your name on it. I've had some people do that, and they just say it's the most amazing thing.
It is. I carry postcards that are thank you cards in my bag for flight attendants who made a difference, hotel staff, because I travel a lot. These people make it easier and more enjoyable.
Cool,
they deserve appreciation.
Send a note to the employee's mother.
Absolutely. Oh, that's big.
Because the mother shares it with everybody. Oh, Lynette is so good because her boss sent me this great note.
We talk a lot about even the recognition at work, how that gets shared and experienced with family and body. So I'm getting the high sign on time.
I'm going to give one other tip.
Oh, sure, please.
I like to have executives send notes. Second, I like to get them a phone. Busy executives have high demands. Here's a phone. Only give the number to your very closest family and say to them, I know I'm working 50, 60 hours a week. That's the reality of my job. If this phone rings, I guarantee I'll take it, no matter where I am, anywhere in the world. Don't call frivolously. I did that with my kids. I got a call once in a meeting. I was presenting, and I thought, okay, we're going to do a break. Our daughter owned real estate, and she didn't know if the urinal should be full or halfway. And I said, let me be clear, that's not worthy of this phone number. But the message to an executive is, you're busy, but you have family, you have kids, you have a loved one. Don't give it to everybody. But when that phone rings, done.
Yeah.
I have had executives say thank you. My kids know I am there. My loved ones know I am there. My mother, my father, my siblings. I think we need as executives to be available to those we love the most. Let us belong and connect with them. That's my tip. It's such a simple one. It's going to cost a couple $100s a year. You don't get a lot of calls, and don't do the urinal call. That's really stupid. But
that's the big tip and takeaway.
That's a big tip. But make it worthwhile. I have found that so helpful. And I've had my kids call once in a while. My daughter called, get emotional there one night. Dad, I'm really worried. My husband's going to the hospital. About 6 o'clock, we live in another city. I said, I'm on my way. I got a ticket. I'm there. And that's the kind of connection that I hope we can create in work.
I love this. Intentional appreciation, intentional availability.
I love that. That's really nice.
And I'm going to ask one last question because we chatted a bit earlier. And we're both big readers. We're both mystery buffs. All kinds of books. We love all kinds of books. What would be one book that you've loved recently you would recommend everybody read?
I'm going to get in trouble here. I'm going to recommend two.
Great.
And one's going to be about my values. I think the Bible works for me. I'm not ashamed of it. I think the principles that from the Old Testament that Jesus of Nazareth, not Jesus the Son of God, but this man Jesus taught are really good living principles. So that's why.
Love of others.
Love of others, service, giving back, caring for those in need. Again, I say Jesus of Nazareth, not Jesus, Son of God. But the other book I've loved is called The Agony and the Ecstasy. It's an old book. It's about Michelangelo.
Okay.
And what I love about that is Michelangelo's success was not a statue. It was a lifetime of creativity. And I hope that it reminds me that age is not the vehicle of creativity, that a lifetime of learning and growing. And the agony and the ecstasy gets me. Then I read authors. I read all the authors.
Everything out there.
I hear there's a new author out of Ireland named Lynette who's got a novel coming out that's going to just change the world, and she's going to be the next great novelist.
My husband's going to love that because he keeps nagging me to write the next chapter.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dave.
What's one message you would share to people listening? You've done so much.
The most important message is pay attention to the people around you with kindness and grace, because we have no idea what that other person is going through. And when we can, authentically thank them for who they are.
With sincerity.
With sincerity.
So let me say to you, thank you. With sincerity.
Thank you.
Thank you.